Our guest today runs a huge money-making machine. Our guest today is the Chief Executive Officer of the Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority. She was one of the first appointments made by Governor Blagojevich. Our guest today is a Chicagoan and a graduate of DePaul University. She is a member of the board of several institutions here, including Children's Memorial Hospital and the Metropolitan Planning Council. She is a lifelong resident of Chicago and has a 6-year-old daughter, Megan. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to the City Club of Chicago the CEO of McPier, Leticia Peralta Davis. Leticia? Thank you. Good luck. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's really, really great to be here. Can everybody hear me okay? Do I have this okay? It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon representing the Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority. It always gives me great pride to discuss our facilities, to represent our talented personnel, and to explain who we are and what we do. I'm aware that many knowledgeable Chicagoans, many of you here today, may be unfamiliar with exactly what MPA is. You might have heard about the authority, or McPier, on countless occasions, but still might be unaware of our mission, our history. So although I plan to give you a sense of where we're going, our agenda for the future, it might be helpful to take a very basic look at where we are today and to take a look back as well. However, before I go any further, I certainly would be remiss if I did not mention our disappointment that we at the MPA missed out on a recent opportunity to serve as a host venue for a much anticipated Chicago event. That was, of course, Jay Doherty's wedding. For the record, we are very happy for Jay, but the fact is, we offer perfect places not only to exchange ideas, but to exchange vows. Lots of people have been married at Navy Pier, and we also operate a hotel, the Hyatt McCormick Place, where people have been married. And perhaps more fitting in Jay's case, our 2.2 million square feet of exhibition space at McCormick Place would have been the perfect place to gather all your close friends. Seriously, on behalf of MPA, let me express my best wishes. Thank you, Jay. It was really wonderful. Congratulations to you and Colleen. My remarks today will center on what we are doing, where we are going. Our facilities are recognized as the premier venues of their kind in North America. But our facilities, like any house, any building, require upgrades, which in our case take the form of new resources, new ideas, and new ways of doing business. The results of doing so extend far outside the walls of our buildings. We see our role as helping Chicago retain its presence on the world stage and ensuring people throughout Illinois enjoy the benefits. We do, as I mentioned, operate 3 outstanding facilities. Many of you have undoubtedly visited one of them, Navy Pier, but you may not fully understand all that it has to offer. To many of you, McCormick Place is the site of the auto show, but McCormick Place and Navy Pier, along with the Hyatt McCormick Place Hotel, represents much more. And in order for you to have a more complete picture of what they are and who we are, you should know more about how we came to be. Following the 1933 World's Fair, unsuccessful attempts were made to build a permanent exposition center. 22 years later, the state approved construction of a 360,000 square foot exhibition hall and created the Metropolitan Fair and Exposition Authority to operate the facility. In 1960, McCormick Place opened for the first time. The facility was financed with $41.8 million in revenue bonds. The building featured a main exhibit area of 320,000 square feet, 23 meeting rooms, and a 5,000-seat theater. Then, of course, 1967. As most of us recall, a massive fire destroyed McCormick Place. The state appropriated $15 million and established the long-term bond financing for reconstruction of the facility. By 1971, the new McCormick Place, what we now call the Lakeside Center, opened with 500,000 square feet of exhibit space. In the late 70s, the former R.R. Donnelly & Sons printing plant was converted into trade show exhibit space, and in 1986, McCormick Place North came into full use. In 89, the city and state adopted a plan whereby ownership and operations of McCormick Place and Navy Pier would join together under the newly created Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority. Among the duties assigned to the MPEA was the redevelopment of the pier into a mixed-use entertainment and exhibition facility. It reopened in this capacity in the summer of 1995. Meanwhile, the 90s saw McCormick Place continue to grow. In December 1996, the new McCormick Place South building opened, adding 840,000 square feet of exhibit space to McCormick Place. Now, a total of 2.2 million square feet. To meet the increasing demand for meeting space, the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place Conference Center opened in August of 2001, complementing the Hyatt Hotel that had opened in 1998. Today, McCormick Place stands as the largest exhibition and meeting facility in North America. This world-class facility generates more than $2 billion for our economy annually and supports more than 44,000 jobs. Last year alone, about 3 million convention and trade show attendees did business at McCormick Place, adding billions to the local economy over time. I am very proud of where we are today, but I am even more proud to discuss what we will be. Looking to the future, our bold and innovative vision is best demonstrated by the west expansion of McCormick Place. It is a project that means sustained economic growth during its design and construction and will result in sustainable economic activity for the years and decades after it operates and opens for business. It will be the key source of business for the city's hospitality and restaurant industry, an enormous source of revenue for the state. I would argue it is not merely important to Chicago and to Illinois. It is not simply an opportunity for the city and the state. Simply put, it is vital to Chicago and it is vital to the state of Illinois. Our economic future depends on Chicago maintaining its preeminent role in the convention and tourism industry. And our ability to carry that mantle long into the future directly depends on this expansion. It is a project valued at about $850 million. The west expansion of McCormick Place will add approximately 470,000 square feet of exhibition space and bring the total to more than 2.6 million square feet. It will add nearly 250,000 square feet of meeting room space, including a ballroom twice the size of any in the city today, on top of our current total of 360,000 square feet of meeting space that we maintain right now. But this expansion is not just about taking a very large facility, which McCormick Place already is, and making it bigger. It is about taking the nation's premier facility for meetings, conventions, and shows, which McCormick Place also is, and making it even better. Better for the city and better for the communities of the city that represent our neighborhood. The west expansion will give us the flexibility to schedule large-scale events back-to-back, or even at the same time. It will mean more bookings on our calendar. One constant has held true at McCormick Place over the years, which provide a useful model for the future. Whenever we have expanded our space, it has led to an expansion in business. Significant jumps in the number of events booked have followed in the years after construction and opening of our buildings. From the late 80s to the early 90s, as customers became familiar with our north building, the number of annual trade and consumer shows increased from a range of 37 to 42 shows per year to a range of 53 to 59 shows per year. Some years, depending on the inherent cycle of the industry, we were well into the 60s. By the end of the 1990s, with our South Hall up and running, that number was grown to a consistent range of 76 to 84 shows annually. There is every reason to see our physical expansion westward as leading to a business expansion upward. And it means flexibility in another sense. It means that we are prepared for future trends in our industry. The age of the convention is not over. It does, however, have competition, or at least it has some company. The trend that we see today is one geared toward organizational meetings, educational events, and innovative medical conferences. The West expansion is designed with that reality in mind, with a ratio of meeting space to exhibition space that ranks among the best in the industry. In the end, it means that Chicago, unique among all the cities in the nation, is prepared for the future and poised for success. It is a move based on confidence and sound business practices. Just as Mayor, just as Mayor Daley has, while arguing for the expansion of O'Hare, pointed out that even in a down economy, expansion, in other words, preparing for the future, makes sense. The same logic holds true here. When we achieve substantial completion by late 2007, with occupancy schedules for 2008, the vision of an expanded McCormick Place will have paid off enormously for Chicago and for Illinois. We at the MPEA have this long-term objective in mind. The impact of our West expansion will be felt throughout the worldwide community of convention and meeting planners and exhibitors. And as importantly, it will be felt in our community, in neighborhoods like Bronzeville, Chinatown, and Motor Row. The new building will continue the process of moving the front door of McCormick Place into the neighborhood. Our new City Gate entrance will provide direct street access to Indiana Avenue. We at McCormick Place have always been proud of the area we call home. And we are even more proud knowing that our expansion can serve in many ways as an anchor for an exciting set of changes, enhancements in housing, new jobs, and increased economic activity in the hospitality and other sectors that will occur there and in the years ahead. We are not simply adjacent to a community. We are part of a community. We do not rise above it. We hope to rise with it. Recent stories have circulated suggesting McCormick Place has seen increased competition from other sources, from Orlando and from Las Vegas. The story is circulated that we are losing business to these cities and that they offer cheaper rates for everything from hotel rooms to labor costs, not to mention better weather. Well, I'm here to admit to you that yes, it's true. Both Orlando and Las Vegas are indeed warmer in January than in Chicago. I have read these stories and I am here to respond. Again, I think some history is useful to keep these developments and their meanings in perspective. Due to the absence of any competition, in addition to their excellence, Chicago and McCormick Place became the undisputed king of the convention industry. When the first McCormick Place was constructed in 1960, it was the first purpose-built convention and exhibition center in the nation. Up to that time, these types of events took place in hotels, ballrooms, amphitheaters, and arenas. We were not simply the only game in town. We were the only game in the country. As to the assertions made in those recent stories, the fact is, not a single major show has uprooted and left town. Over the summer, some people took note of a rift in the hardware show and used that as evidence of our losing grip on our industry. The fact is, because of an internal dispute, some might say a family squabble in the hardware field, the result is that 2 shows will now be conducted, one in Chicago and one in Las Vegas. In fact, new shows have been added to the McCormick Place calendar. This year, we have welcomed for the first time the American College of Cardiology, the Association of Perioperative Registered Nurses, American Society of Clinical Oncology, the AARP, and the Risk and Insurance Management Society. These shows demonstrate the upward trend in the medical and educational meetings market, all of which, as I said, our West Building will be particularly well suited to capture. During a down economy, our business, like others, will feel an impact. For us, it primarily means more difficulty in booking events during our down periods. During peak times, however, we remain fully booked. As to the issue of costs raised by some of these recent stories, the fact is the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau tells us that Las Vegas room nights are not substantially lower than Chicago's. There is no more than a 10% difference in the average first-class room rate in Las Vegas versus that of Chicago. Some people in Vegas might be getting their rooms comped, but it's not people attending conventions. It has also been inaccurately reported that Las Vegas is not a union town. The fact is, Las Vegas does have unions operating in its convention business, and our rates are comparable to theirs. We do, however, have other issues in the area of labor that I plan to address momentarily. Some media accounts have cited a set of data called the Trade Show 200 as evidence of our supposed slippage. These data do not tell the whole story. The Trade Show 200 list is based on exhibition space utilized. It does not factor in the number of attendees, nor does it consider the meeting's business. In other words, it completely ignores major elements of the industry, the meetings and educational and medical seminars that now account for the greatest growth in our field. Consider that there are 13,000 exhibitions taking place in the US and Canada. This list is only looking at 200 trade shows. Even at shows where attendance numbers may not be as high as they once were, or where less square footage is being put to use, this does not necessarily mean a decrease in business or a decrease in the show's success. Show managers report to us, you may have fewer people kicking the tires, fewer people just checking out the latest gadgets, but more people, by proportion, serious about doing business, more people there to make a deal, to make a purchase. All of which means a more productive show, a better experience, and an increased likelihood that the show will come back. Had there been a significant slippage to date, it certainly would have shown up in the city's hotel occupancy numbers. It did not. Looking at the change in occupancy at Chicago's hotels, 2003 represents a marked improvement over 2002, and in fact shows that Chicago is outperforming virtually every other major city in the nation. Through August of this year, Chicago can boast of being one of only 2 cities surveyed, along with San Francisco, showing a positive change in this key indicator. Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, LA, New Orleans, New York, Orlando, and Washington have all decreased. And our rate of improvement over last year at 7.1% is substantially higher than that of San Francisco. For all the talk devoted to the idea that Chicago has become the second city in the convention and meeting industry behind Las Vegas, the fact is that D.K. Shiflett and Associates, the source that is considered the gold standard of judging the hospitality industry numbers, shows that Chicago continued to outpace Las Vegas in 2002 as a group meeting destination. In the area of overnight group meeting volume, Chicago leads Las Vegas by a healthy 14%. Having said all that, there are lessons to be learned from our peers, from other cities, reforms in the area of labor that Chicago must pursue. Chicago earned well-deserved renown for its instituting some significant reforms in the late 1990s. However, today, other cities have passed us by. Recently, Philadelphia completed a wide-ranging labor reform package. There, a new unified contract essentially combined laborers, teamsters, and carpenters under a single set of work rules. This reduced the number of jurisdictions working with and inside the building. A single labor supplier was hired to manage and order all labor in the building. The first 8 hours of work performed in each workday will be paid a straight time regardless of the starting or ending time of the shift. Are those changes made by Philadelphia applicable to Chicago? Are they appropriate to McCormick Place? Those questions need to be answered. But I have personally heard our customers identify labor costs as a major concern, one which they expect us to deal with sooner rather than later. And they certainly will take note if we fail to address it. Let me make it clear. We value our workers. Our labor is, far and away, the best in the business. But all parties involved, including the men and women in represented trades, would benefit by taking additional steps that build upon the positive reforms of the 1990s. We need to come back to the table. If we do, to hammer out these issues, we will all win. There is something to be learned from other cities and states in the area of financial support for the convention industry, too. This year, the MPEA's $5 million subsidy fell victim to the state's historic budget deficit. The loss of state funding, whether temporary or permanent, certainly poses an additional challenge to the authority and was one of the major reasons why we took substantial budget-saving steps earlier this year. There are, I would argue, ample reasons why that money should be restored and, in fact, increased above the previous level of $5 million. Keep in mind, the MPEA is entirely self-sustaining. The funds required for operations are entirely derived from the sale of services to outside customers. For the sake of comparison, Las Vegas, which has a combined convention and building authority, receives upwards of $140 million per year. In comparison, how can we expect to compete? In the long run, rather than justifying year to year the logic of a state grant, a dedicated state funding stream for the MPEA would be an investment that would be returned to the state's treasury 20-fold. The MPEA has in recent months carried out a program of greater efficiency. Some of the actions have been unprecedented. This year, faced with a 3-year budget deficit of more than $60 million, it was clear that personnel was an area where savings needed to be achieved. A reduction of more than 20% in workforce, including for the first time reductions in staff represented by organized labor, means that more productivity is being demanded of our staff. There is another set of reforms, one with substantial long-term benefits that is priority to me. I see it as part of the long-term permanent legacy of the West expansion and in each of the MPEA procurement activities. It is an enhanced commitment to fulfilling MBE and WBE participation. Those of us who are leaders in our fields realize there is much to be gained by ensuring that the next generation of leaders rises from a diverse pool of talented people, that all are invited to demonstrate their skills, and that hopefully it does not take as long as a generation to make that a reality. I've spent a good deal of time talking about McCormick Place, but while some venues across the country try to compete with McCormick Place and position themselves as heirs to the throne or worthy competitors, the fact is no one has figured out how to even compete with Navy Pier. In other words, Navy Pier is, we think, without pier. Navy Pier remains the most popular tourist attraction in Illinois, and it continues to experience increased popularity. During this summer's Tall Ships Festival, we broke our all-time record for single-day attendance. 450,000 people on a single Saturday came to Navy Pier, which also meant record sales for many of our tenants. Right now, and continuing through November 2nd, we are in the midst of our Halloween event at Navy Pier, Navy Fear and Fun, featuring the city's newest Halloween attraction, the Beast. It's a full sensory maze through a giant monster that, according to our radio commercials, we have captured from the depths of Lake Michigan. It's perfect for kids as well as adults. I realize that for anyone involved in business or politics or journalism, a 150-foot journey through the belly of a beast might seem more like a commonplace everyday occurrence rather than something you'd have to make a special trip for. Nonetheless, you're all invited to come and take a tour. Staying with that theme, Navy Pier is indeed an economic monster, a friendly one. In 2002, of the 8.4 million visitors who came to Navy Pier, more than 25% were from out of town, other U.S. cities, and internationally. This contributes to a total gross sales at the pier of an impressive $90 million, with an additional $40 million spent directly with the pier in its convention sales, parking, pier park, sponsorship revenues, all totaling $130 million of overall spending at Navy Pier. There's another side of a Navy Pier, too, perhaps, that you are unaware. Its use, for instance, as a venue for events by leading industry groups and associations and various local firms. Approximately 500,000 of the 8.4 million Navy Pier guests were attendees of conventions or private functions at Navy Pier. They came for such events as the Point of Purchase advertising event held last month, which more than 500 exhibitors and an attendance of more than 4,000. We were proud to host for the first time this year the International Trade Show for the Aluminum Industry, a forum for domestic firms and their overseas counterparts. Upcoming events include the Catholic Festival of Faith. This 4-day event will use all festival hall space and draw 6,000 attendees. Corporate business in the ballroom and meeting rooms in the past month included LaSalle Bank, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and the Chicago Meat Industry. Next month, the Siemens Corporation will hold its international meeting at the pier. All in all, according to the City of Chicago, these 500,000 people attending such events at Navy Pier spent an impressive total of $347 million during their stay in Chicago. Navy Pier, therefore, is more than just a sight to see and fun activities for the kids. It's a source of significant economic activity as well. Our goal is to keep Navy Pier fresh and fun for people of all ages and to make more businesses aware of its potential as a premier site in its own right for trade shows and other meetings. For those of you who have been to McCormick Place when a major show is in progress, I think it is accurate to describe it as the crossroads of American business. Navy Pier and its diversity of offerings similarly brings together people from across the heartland of the United States and across the world. They are both essential elements to keeping Chicago at the crossroads of the American convention and tourism industry. We, however, at the MPEA are at the crossroads ourselves, a moment which calls for new approaches, but where lessons from our own past, a legacy of leadership and innovation, can serve as a guide. I am confident that our recent and upcoming moves are pointing us in the right direction. And in doing so, I believe that we will continue to point more people from across the world to travel toward us, to gather in our facilities. Thank you very much.
Brian Velo with, I have a question for Leticia. What kind of marketing strategies is the pier putting in place to really market Chicago over Las Vegas and over in Orlando? Are we focusing more on what the city has to offer and what the surrounding of the city has to offer? I mean, what are the key points that you think separate Chicago from the rest?
That's a good question. We work very closely with the Chicago Bureau of Tourism, who acts as our partner in marketing both Navy Pier and McCormick Place. And we believe that, as history has proven, that Chicago is a preeminent destination to do business. And that goes for the convention and trade show and meeting show industry. We are always looking at new ways to package that as a premier destination, and always working closely with the Bureau and the city to package different venues, different opportunities that are available to the conventioneers as it relates to a good experience when they come to Chicago. Conventions, the show people themselves are always looking to see how good facilities are, how well they're maintained, how well they adapt to their own particular unique needs, and obviously costs. So from a marketing perspective, the Bureau has done a great job for us, and we look forward to developing new marketing plans for the future as we build our new building in the West.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Just want you to know that this Saturday night, October 25th, 7 o'clock on CAN TV, which is Channel 21 in Chicago, this program featuring Leticia Peralta Davis will be available on CAN TV. So in case you want to sit down with your friends and family and reprise this program, at 7 o'clock Saturday evening. Gentleman up back there. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The question was stated that there's a large discrepancy between what is funded in Las Vegas for marketing versus what is funded in Chicago for marketing, and what would it do to the bottom line if we had comparable funding here in Illinois. Well, I think we would like to see the benefit of that additional funding funneled to the marketing effort of McCormick Place and Navy Pier, and certainly additional revenues that would result in additional meeting shows and conventions being booked would be of the direct effect to the bottom line. The West Expansion Building, when it comes into full use, will obviously be an opportunity to fill dates that we cannot currently fill. We have move-in dates and move-out dates that do not right now generate income, income, and we look to the bringing on that facility to definitely hit some positive results to our bottom line. Thank you.
When do you anticipate the West Building to be fully completed and open?
The schedule is to have completion by the end of 2007 and opening in 2008. Is that right?
Sir?
So, Leticia, is that enough time for myself and Dan Burke to work on bringing a new casino to the pier?
Do what you got to do, right?
To help pay for it, to help
Sure.
keep the traffic flowing
Where's
in
Dan?
terms of conventions. Because when you look at Orlando, when you look at Las Vegas, when you look at Atlanta, outside of the strip clubs, they have casinos. And casinos are a reality in the state of Illinois. I happen to serve on the gaming committee. And
This is State Representative Ken Duncan, by the way, happens to be my state representative.
all right, thank you. I say that because in the district, this is the district that I happen to represent, from North Avenue and Halsted all the way to 63rd and Cottage Grove. And there are a lot of buses coming from Indiana, taking hordes and hordes of individuals who live in this state and taking their extra resources, however big or small, and they're going over to Indiana. But I'm willing to bet that if somewhere within the vicinity of Navy Pier and the great McCormick Place, a world-class facility, that if we had just an iota of a casino, land-based, moving up and down the Lake Michigan, that people like Ken Duncan and Dan Burke of the General Assembly would probably support that. So have you done an analysis if that were the case?
How about giving the CEO a chance to answer, Mr. Representative
Yes, sir.
Duncan?
That sounds really great. Oh. I can't comment any more than that.
Okay. By the way, you're going to get some free publicity that maybe your media staff and information staff is aware of. But there's a magazine called Classic Toy Trains, which is a magazine for toy collectors, and I'm one myself. And in the December issue, there will be a major 4 or 5 page spread on the electric train exhibit that will be at Navy Pier starting in December and continuing through the middle of January. So when you think of Christmas, folks, you think of Lionel trains, American Flyer trains. Take you and your family out to Navy Pier and really enjoy it.
Thank you. Great.
We have time for one more quick question, if there is one. Yes, sir.
Todd Cholene. Leticia, I have gone to the tall ships and to the Winter Wonderfest, and usually I end up trying to go there by a cab or a car or a bus, and it's usually kind of difficult. Is there any plans to have some sort of a rail service from maybe the Loop area that would go out to the pier?
I'm not aware of any specific plans to date, Todd, of any sort of rail service. We certainly look to try and encourage as many visitors as possible to take public transportation and use our trolley service that does connect from various major locations in the business loop area and the Michigan Avenue area. I think the mass transportation line that you speak of would take some additional thinking. It certainly is one to keep in our heads. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leticia. And before we leave, we at the City Club want to present you with 2 items. One is a complimentary 1-year membership to the City Club. And this doesn't go for any of your staff. They have to pay the $50. And we think this is okay under the stringent ethics legislation at MPEA. This is a City Club mug.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.